but we'll get started. So there we go. It's
Yeah.
live.
We're
Like
live, and
yeah.
as Jamie says, technology is getting so much better, but usually there's a little bit of a phantom delay. But we're here with Leslie and Jamie and me, Mark, and we're gonna have a great discussion today. Leslie, I just want to take a moment to kind of introduce you to the group very briefly, and maybe you could just introduce yourself by saying, hey, this is who I am and this is what I do. This is who I help.
Well, who I am is I'm a marriage coach, and I'm a marriage coach for men. I'm also a licensed marriage and family therapist, so I do have that background, but I've learned that, traditional couples counseling doesn't work for a lot of different reasons, which, we can talk about, but it really doesn't work for men. And so I've learned that in order to support men in their marriages, I had to change my style. And so it's really about giving them the action steps to give them the confidence and the clarity to be the husbands, fathers, and people that they want to be.
I love that. And it's always what I love about getting together and just talking, with sometimes it's just Jamie and I, sometimes it's me, sometimes there's somebody on here, but Leslie, I always love the serendipity and how we begin. And I'm a fan of this, and how you can call it the universe, you can call it God, you can call it whatever, but how we, in the first moments, are the seeds of where everything seems to go. And I love how you just introduced that concept. And it's so powerful to think about. And it's so true, as a man, is we're doers, right? We want to, as in relationship counseling, you get, a couple together, and she says, I just want you to listen. And he says, I want to fix it. Right? I want to
Right.
do something. So I love that you're bringing that uniqueness, that element, and recognizing that uniqueness. So, and I think it fits beautifully into the idea of our topic, which is clarity is a choice, and indecision is probably, and we've talked about this week, by the way, we're doing a workshop this week, and indecision is something we hit home on every day, and how it's crippling. And it can be one of the most expensive habits that anybody could have, is this idea of being frozen in indecision that then can lead to any number of things. It can lead to broken relationships. It can lead to a broken job, a loss of job, and it can certainly lead to a business that doesn't work. That idea of being stuck and letting those indecisions pile up. So powerful, powerful stuff. And I want to kind of flip the switch here, and then I'll shut up and pass the mic, if you will. But this idea that just because you're confused and therefore maybe you're stuck, and therefore you don't make a decision, so you're stuck in indecision, it doesn't mean that you're broken. It simply means that you lack a path, you lack structure. Jamie and I teach people how to build businesses. So in business, it means your business lacks structure. So every day you hesitate in business. If you hesitate over who you're serving, if you hesitate over what you're doing, what you're offering to do for people, if you hesitate over your plan to get them there, then you actually erode your own trust, so self-trust, and the trust of others. So the idea that clarity isn't found, it's chosen. We choose it first, and then it's built through action, through taking action. So those are kind of some of my steps around my thoughts, if you will, around clarity and indecision. And I will pass the mic. Who wants to go?
Well, I love how you talked about how people get stuck in business, right? And because they don't have a plan. And, it's funny because, there's that famous Benjamin Franklin quote, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Yeah.
And people get that in relation to their jobs, but they seem to think that their relationships can be just unplanned, right? And especially when we're talking about the complex relationship that is marriage. It is the most complicated relationship that exists because it's a combination of every relationship you're in. Yeah. And people are trying to do that by the seat of their pants, that, it's like, plan? What does that even mean? But, it's business. You guys do this. If you don't have a plan, if you don't have a direction, then one, how do you know when you're there? and two, how do you know how to get there? But, I had a client many, many years ago, and she came into my office and she was so excited, and her husband wasn't at that session. And she was like, I had an epiphany. And I said, great. What was it? And she said, relationships aren't natural. And I burst out laughing. And I said, well, where'd you get the idea they were? But that's what everybody thinks, right? We fall in love, which is great. I'm not a big fan. But then we enter into this relationship. Every other romantic relationship we've been in has not succeeded. And somehow we're going to try to make this one work. But that's because there's no plan, right?
Yeah.
And this is why marriage has this thing. It's hard work. Well, it's hard work because you're going blind, and you're trying to get through this without any idea. Plus, you guys know this from a business perspective, like the shiny object stuff. We get all this information.
Yes.
Some of it highly contradictory.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we try to figure, and you can't, it's like, well, if I do this, then it's antagonist, and that's what keeps us stuck.
Yeah.
Because we just don't know.
Yeah.
And marriage is like this black hole,
Yeah.
Where we'll ask people, go to business coaches, how do I get more clients? What's the best marketing strategy? I'll go to my friends. How did you potty train your kid? How did you get them to sleep through the night? What did you do about the horrible teenage years? But marriage is this black hole.
Yeah.
We don't talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Powerful. Yeah.
And that's really, somehow we treat it differently than any other aspect of our lives when it's actually one of the most foundational things that we're trying to do.
You bet. Yeah.
So true. Yeah. It's kind of like in our business, having people get clarity on what they really want is the first step, right? So they think, well, I just need more clients. That's a level of clarity that they have.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, right. And so we take them all the way back to, well, what do you want from your life? Let's talk about you first. What do you want for your life financially, business-wise, lifestyle? How do you want that to look?
Relationship-wise.
Yeah. Right? And all of that. And only then can you actually build, and we're talking about business here in that sense, only then can we help you to build a business. It's going to kind of fulfill those desires. But if you're not clear on exactly what those desires are, specifics. Now, when we say, well, how much money do you want to make? People just say, I just want to make enough money to pay the bills. Well, what is enough? What is that number? What is that number? And let's build in a buffer to that, right? So it's like having that real clarity of exactly what you want to make, and then reverse engineering and going, well, how many clients do I need to, am I priced in a way that's going to attract the right amount of clients? The goal is always to work with fewer clients and making more money, right? So having that clarity first is so key.
Yeah. Yeah. And that relationship idea, I'm sure this is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but let's say the same idea is that, people go into marriage, but never really think about, well, what do I want from that? And I'm sure you get for us, it's, I just want clients. For you, it's probably, for a man, it would be, I just want more sex or something like that, as opposed to, wait a minute, let's back up a minute and let's look at this holistically.
Right.
And see, what do you want that to look like in a whole?
Right. And it's really interesting because, there are those emotional blocks. There's the emotional blocks when we're trying to do business. There's the emotional blocks. It's like, what's getting in the way, right? What has happened that I haven't dealt with? And one of the things really is, because in a marriage, you have two equal partners. If I'm a business owner, right, I could be doing it all on my own. So I only have to take into account what is my goal. But if I'm married, there's another person who also has their own ideas and goals and wants and needs. And that's really, how do we navigate through this? And trying to do it by the seat of your pants is really complicated, as opposed to, what structure do we want to put around it, right? What are the things that we want to have? What kind of lifestyle do we want to have? Do we want to have children? all of these, how do we want to spend our time? I mean, all of these things, right?
Sure.
And when you have a roadmap or a guideline, then it makes the smaller decisions easier, right?
Yes.
It's, can is eating out, healthy, financially wise. I mean, these things that that if you have that umbrella plan, then it's really easy. You just bounce the decisions off of that, right?
Yeah.
Is this moving us towards our goal or away from our goal? But if we don't have, we need a more specific goal than just don't get divorced.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, I do think that's a great goal to have, right?
Yeah.
But that can lead to people living in relationships that really are emotionally unsatisfying.
Yeah.
Because, well, we're just not divorced. Yeah, but I wouldn't put this, but who wants to live this way? But that's, again, going back to that clarity piece.
Yeah. And that idea of a plan too, as you said, so that, people often just kind of wait for it to show up, right? Oh, it'll, so, in a general sense of, well, what do you really want? Well, I want a happy relationship. I want to be happy. Well, what is that? What does that mean? How do you define happiness? What actions do you take? What activities do you participate in? What are the things you do together? What are the things you do apart? All of those, that's specific things that turn it from being a vague thing to an idea that you can actually plan around.
Right. And that even goes into the shoulds, right? I mean, we get this in business all the time. You should be posting 5 times a day. It's like, oh my, it's like, okay. Or you should be doing this. And it's like, for me, it's the clarity, going back to that. I drive my clients crazy with that word, about, what makes sense. I've had clients that, they're doing something in their relationship that I could not do in mine. Right. But it's working for them. Great. No problem. There's no should, right? It's not you should do it this way or you should do it that way. It's taking those ideas and going, does this even make sense for us?
Yeah.
Yes or no? And then if it does make sense, how do we want to operationalize it? And it's really okay to say, never want to see that.
Yeah. That doesn't work for me. Yeah.
But here's the thing. The two of you have to agree.
Yeah. And then complement each other. Like, I mean, I'm very fortunate in that I do have a partner with Jamie. So, but at the same time, it's like a marriage. And we talk about that all the time, is that we have to balance each other's needs, wants, and values. So this idea of, one of the things that's really been powerful for me the last, I'd say 6 months or so, is I've been really using AI a lot. So, and more for introspection, more as a sounding board, as opposed to a search engine, which most people use AI as a search engine. And one of the things that it really brought out for me in our business is it said, okay, it identified, first of all, there's a profile out there called the Colby profile. There's tons of, as you know, psychometric instruments. Colby's kind of more about, it's a cognitive profile and it's about how you operate. And typically, it's used a lot in business. But one of the things that chat helped me tune in on was my Colby profile is called Quick Start, which means, I move fast and I like to start things. You probably come across this with a lot of men too, but I'm terrible at follow through. So it really helped me let go of guilt over that and let go of trying to overcome that weakness, and instead embrace that as a strength and say, okay, your job is to take something to maybe to 80%. And then you got to turn it over to a completer, somebody that has the ability. You got to hire somebody, you got to get a VA. I happen to be blessed that Jamie and I complement each other and that our strengths and weaknesses are opposites in a sense. So I can now take a project to that level and then turn it over to Jamie, and Jamie will just run with it, polish it up and implement it and make it go. And that's become, a wonderful thing. So that idea in relationships of knowing what are your strengths from a personal marriage perspective, my wife and I recognized very early on, it was pretty obvious, I really like to cook. I mean, get out of my way. I take the lead in the kitchen. My wife is fastidious. I mean, if you saw our house, you'd go, it'd probably drive you nuts. But as a result, she loves to clean. So we're just a great team because I cook, make a mess in the kitchen, although she yells at me sometimes, but then she cleans it all up. So we have that duty where I get to work for an hour, creating whatever creation I want to create. She enjoys the benefit of that food. And then I enjoy the benefit of not having to do the dishes, which I really don't want to do anyway. So it's that working with strengths and saying, you're strong at this, I'm strong at this. Why don't we, instead of, shaming each other, saying, oh, you never clean up. How come you never do the dishes? Oh, how come you never cook? You can see where the conflict starts because we want to force the other person. And we hear this all often, in marriage counseling, right? You marry somebody because of their differences. That's what attracts you. And then you try and mold them into you. Right.
That was that great musical. I love you. You're perfect. Now change.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. And I mean, and the truth of the matter is we will influence each other. We should influence each other.
Yes.
But it's really okay. I mean, it's really okay to identify what matters to you, and and say, hey, I'm really good at this. This is something I want to do, or it matters to me, and because it matters to me, I'm willing to take it on. And then you break it out that way. I mean, you talk about cooking. It's like one of my best friend, good Southern girl. Her mother raised her to be this good Southern girl, except she didn't teach her how to cook. And so, but because women are supposed to be doing, she was always trying to cook for her husband. Well, her husband's a gourmet cook.
Wow.
Right? So it's like, okay, this is one of those shoulds that for them. Plus, she also was a dance teacher, which meant she got home late.
Yeah.
So then if she was cooking, so it just made no sense.
Yeah.
Give it up.
Yeah.
Find what works for you.
Yes.
And stop apologizing or defending why you're doing it. It's like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I feel like the best part of like being in a marriage that works, and I've been married for almost 25 years. And by the way, Mark, I'm the cook in my house and my husband is the cleaner. So it's so funny that we have just the opposite. We never talked about that. You've told me about your wife.
We're both cookers and nobody cleans. So that's the problem.
But what you were just saying is, and I was just relating to that, like when you marry somebody and you land in a place of like, this person just gets me and accepts me just the way that I am, faults and all, and whatever. It doesn't start out that way always. You have this romanticized, version of that. But when you are with somebody who just gets you and just like accepts you and isn't trying to change you, like we talked about, I love you, now change, you're perfect, now change. No, you want to be with somebody who really does just get you, and it does exist. It's hard. It's hard to find, but I guess when you find it, I'm sure Leslie has something to say about that, but yeah.
And then working within that to become more, like, in a sense, I mean, that's what we talk about in business. Right. Like, obviously people who go into business. Well, I'm not going to contradict myself, but I'm going to offer a myth here, like a false belief, if you will. But real business, when somebody goes into business for themselves, is that desire to be something more, to give something more, to create something, to maybe even create a legacy, if you will. Unfortunately, much like marriage, with all the programming that comes with it, you're a woman, then you should learn how to keep house. You should learn how to cook. You should learn how to clean. You should learn how to do the laundry.
Right.
In the same vein with business, we get this programming from a very young age that you have to create a job for yourself. Right. So your primary goal, if you will, is to generate revenue, to generate money, even though that might feel icky, even though that might feel like you're trying to push yourself on somebody. But we've been programmed into that. Instead of coming from it from the other perspective, is saying, wait a minute, what if I focus more on how can we grow this into a great relationship, whether it's a marriage, whether it's with a child, whether it's a business. How can I have a relationship with this business that brings out the most in me and serves others, serves my family, serves my friends, serves my community? And, there's parallels there, isn't there?
Right. Well, and there is, and going back to the concept of choosing, right?
Yes.
I can
decide versus indecision.
Right. But
Yeah.
I can, it's like, if I can choose how I want to interpret my partner's behavior.
Yes.
And unfortunately, human beings are hardwired to focus on the negative because we have to keep ourselves alive, right?
Yeah, survival. Yeah.
And so, but we're actually telling ourselves stories about what somebody is doing.
Yes.
And what I try to work with my clients is if you have 5 options, 5 different ways to interpret what your partner is doing. Do you pick the one that puts them in the best light, or the one that puts them in the worst light?
Yes.
And, and that's a choice,
yes.
right? I can say my partner did this with the specific purpose of making me upset. Or I could say, oh, I'm upset with something my partner did. They don't know something. They don't know that this is problematic for me. Let me share that with them. Let me tell them, because it's like, it's really funny with my husband. There are some things that he can tease me about and I don't have a problem with. And then there is a no-go zone.
Yeah.
I have no sense. Do not step in that puddle. It will not end well.
Yes.
And so if he's teasing me and he bumps up against one of it's like, oh, he doesn't know that goes in that pile. I need to tell him, no, don't do that. Right.
Yes.
But we seem to think, the way you go into the mind reading school of marriage, that they're just supposed to know.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like, because a lot of times, and I know you guys do this because you've had those hard conversations with me about, those conversations are hard. I don't want to look at my blind spots, the area, because again, you said it really well, Mark, about shaming. Like, just because I don't do something naturally well, whatever, doesn't mean I'm less than.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, and we do things differently. It's really funny. My husband is a very, very bright man. He's very capable, whatever. But I learned, we were playing a card game, and I learned, and it was a card game where you could do things by color, number, shape, and something else. There were 4, and it's like, and I was like fast, and I was like, what is up with you? He goes, I just can't see the patterns that way. Right?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean he's not smart.
Yeah.
It just means I happen to be better. I mean, we do this whole thing, he does Sudoku and I give up because it's like, I just don't want to push myself. And he calls me the word puzzle queen. Just differences, not better, not worse.
Yes. No value judgment around it. Just acceptance and accepting the difference, which is where the magic lies, right? That's where life, to me, from a philosophical standpoint, that's where the joy is. That's where the energy is learning something new, discovering something new, having that childlike curiosity to say, I want to understand that. I want to, why, like that innate human desire to know.
Right. And curiosity, because I'm really interested, not because I'm going to correct you.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And, because curiosity is one of my all-time favorite words. And people do not act randomly. So if my partner is doing something, there's a reason for it. Am I interested in figuring that out? Are they interested in figuring it out? And it's an ongoing process. I mean, my husband and I have been together for 40 years. And there are still things we don't know about each other.
Sure.
It's like what? It's like you think we would have had all the conversations. It's like, but no, because we keep experiencing new stuff.
Yeah.
And so this idea that, okay, we're married, period, end of sentence, we're going to live happily ever after is like, no, that's like opening your business and then, okay, I don't have to do anything more.
Yeah. Yeah. So
It's
true. It's like that stagnant, corner store or whatever that we go into sometimes, and it's all dusty and there's old product on the shelves, and the owner's hunched over, and you go, "Do you own this place?" And they go, "Yeah, I can't afford to hire anybody." "Oh, how long have you had the shop?" "Oh, 40 years."
Right.
And they're dead inside and their business is dead, but they just keep going through the motions thinking, well, there's nothing I can do.
Right. Well, and that's true. I mean, and this is one of the things I say. It's like there is so much information out there about what makes relationships work.
Yes.
But do people access it? Sometimes people do.
Yeah.
But again, it's like anything else. Just because I know what to do doesn't mean I know how to do it.
Yes.
And we have to take into account the way we think, what's happened to us, all of those things that get in the way, right? I mean, I know you guys run across this all the time. Visibility, one of my things, right? It's old baggage around that I've had to, and it's an ongoing thing.
Sure.
Oh, there's another layer of that onion. Crap, thought I was done with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's it's like we're sharks. You have to keep swimming to keep alive. It's like but people get complacent, or really what they do is they get scared because they don't know. And it's what you were talking about before, where fear paralyzes them.
Yeah.
And this is really true. Matter of fact, I was just talking to a client last night, and he's like, I'm so afraid of doing the wrong thing that I don't do anything. I go, yep, that's it. And and some of that is training, right? That if I do the wrong thing, then I get lambasted.
Yeah.
So now I'm, deer in the headlights, where do I go?
Yeah.
And again, that's about, am I seeing my partner making an effort? Maybe, I mean, the example I was using last night was the best baseball players in the world only hit the ball 3 out of 10 times.
Yeah. Yeah.
They only get a hit 3 out of 10 times.
Yeah, that's a real pro, a stellar statistic. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you're nobody can maintain a 400 batting average, right? That's 4 out of 10 times, right?
Yeah.
So this idea that we're going to be right all the time, but they don't quit.
Yeah.
They keep getting back up, right?
Yeah. And think about, I think that's a great analogy or metaphor or whatever you want to call it, because it's the idea of, can you imagine if a professional athlete, a professional baseball player got stuck by not choosing to act, by stuck in indecision? What's going to happen if they just stay there and they go, no, I'm not going to swing until it's perfect, until I'm guaranteed that I'm going to hit a home run? They're going to strike out. Yep. And I think that's a great metaphor for life and for business.
Strike out just by standing there.
Waiting, right?
Yeah.
I'm just standing still and I'm waiting for the guaranteed pitch, the guaranteed pitch and throw and ball that's going to guarantee me a home run. You're going to strike out every time. And I think whether it's in marriage, with children, with life, with business, is as long as you sit there. And again, I love how you brought that up, Leslie, that's that primitive brain coming in saying, well, I got to keep you safe. But I think I read this the other day, that idea of, okay, so the caveman, your primitive brain is sitting in the cave and they hear a noise and they go, well, I'm choosing not to go out because it could be a saber-toothed tiger. But then again, it could be a squirrel. But if I keep staying here, I'm going to starve to death. So sooner or later, I've got to make the choice to step out and figure out what's going on out there to see whether I can catch it, whether I can eat it, or whether I need to run from it. But staying stuck inside means you're going to die. You're going to strike out. So I love that metaphor. Yeah.
And the more willing you are to try, the more success you're going to have. Because if you wait until you're starving, then you're going to be making some bad decisions.
Yes.
Right? I mean, and this is what happens, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's like, maybe it'll just get better on its own, maybe. And then it's like, your wife says, I want a divorce. And now you're in a panic. It's like, okay, that did not come out of thin air.
Exactly.
It did not.
It's a stack of, I use it's a stack of indecisions that get so high that you've got so many, I'll think about it, ideas that you're paralyzed.
Right.
And it's through that, that idea. And of course we talk about that, as you know, Leslie, is that idea that decide, act, then think about it. Did it work? If I act and I bring it up and I say, I want this, or could we do this? Then we can say, well, did that bring me closer to or further away from a joyful marriage? Did it bring me closer to or further away from a successful business? That idea of decide, act, then think about it. Use the data that you get from the action to basically form up your next decision. Right.
And even in business, right? You're selling to a customer. Somebody's on the other side of it. So it's still similar to being married. It's like I have to be providing something that somebody else wants. Now I can create something, but if nobody wants it.
Yeah. That's so true. We talk about that. How many people go out and build their program and they just come to us and go, I just need your help selling my program. Well, does anybody even want your program? Have you tested it out there? Does anybody say that they need that?
Right.
We reverse engineer that.
Yeah. So it's really, it's not any different. The fact that I have to take into account somebody else's opinions, right? It's like, it's like selling ice to Eskimos. They don't need it. Stop that. It's like, but but we think it's all different rules, except it's not.
Yeah. I think and we're kind of, we like to keep this to about 30 minutes, but I kind of have what's coming up for me to kind of circle us, if you will, into a summation. It would be, for me, what's coming up for me is it's all about relationships. So whether it's a marriage, whether it's working with your children and a family, whether it's in business, it's all the concept of building healthy relationships. And when we do that, that's when life starts to work. And it takes work to make relationships work. And that, that's that whole idea of moving forward, stepping into the unknown, asking questions, developing curiosity, so that you can get greater understanding. All of that is really symbolic of everything in life, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. And the other thing that I think people need to know is you're not meant to do it by yourself. It's almost impossible to be successful in any area by yourself.
Yes.
I mean, I use professional sports analogies all the time. And I'm sure I've never met LeBron James, but he's probably tired of me talking about him. He has at least 5 different coaches because he wants to be the best.
Yeah.
He doesn't do it on his own.
Yes.
He can't, it's like going back to baseball players. I can't see my batting stance. Somebody's got to tell me, what am I doing? Oh, you're dropping your hip, or, go. It's like, we can't see.
Yes.
We can't do it on our own. But this idea that somehow we are failures if we have a support system, it's like, that's the way you get through life.
Yeah. I think I'm hopeful that there's a shift coming, but in terms of attitude and in terms of awareness in the world, but you're so right. Is like, when we think about, for some reason, somebody will sit back and go, oh, that guy deserves to make $10 million a year. And he'd be an idiot if he didn't have 5 coaches working with him all the time. And then to turn it around and go, well, how was your coach for your parenting? Did you have a good parenting coach? Parenting coach? Is there something mentally wrong with you? Are you handicapped? Why on earth would I need a parenting coach? Like, as somehow the universe poured that into your brain at birth and said, you are going to be the perfect parent. Yeah. No. And this is why, to me, coaching, I'm so passionate about it, is I hope we're coming to an awakening, and I believe we are, where people are beginning to realize, you know what, if I really want to get the most out of something, marriage, parenting, business, my work, my skill, cooking, gardening, that one of the best ways that I can become more and become better and really take joy in that is by working with a coach, somebody who's been there before, somebody who knows something that I don't know, who can bring me a new perspective, somebody that can look at me and say, drop your hip, a little less flour, right? Yeah, right. No, you're watering too much. You're not, like somebody that's been there and walked that journey, maybe, but also somebody that even has developed those skills through training, through experience, through working with others, that can actually give you that guidance to help you get what you want. And that's what it kind of boils down to, doesn't it? Yeah.
I mean, and the truth is, we aren't born with this knowledge, right? We develop it, and yes. And so many things impact that sometimes it's like, my favorite moments are when my clients go, oh, I never thought about it that way before. I'm going, yay!
Yes.
Because that's the shift, right? And insight is helpful, but insight without action is not going to get us anywhere. And that's part of the reason why I don't do traditional counseling anymore, because there was a lot of insight, but no action steps. Tell me what to do, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah,
that I love that. The balance of the what with, as you said this, and circling back to something you said before, it's the balance of the what and then the how.
Right.
So we can stay in that left brain intellectual space of knowing what and becoming lifelong students. But really, and there's that proverb that I say sometimes, is to know and not to do is not to know.
Yep.
So it's that other side, that how that you brought up so beautifully, the what, and then the how is where the action comes in, where the doing. Yeah.
And then pay attention to the feedback you get.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, we could go on and on and on. What a great topic. Leslie, we're so looking forward to having you back at some point in time in the future.
Sure.
But while we're here right now, I know Jamie would love to, and both of us would love to share anything about you, how people can get in touch with you. You brought up some amazing things. We know that you have tremendous skill in the area of helping men in particular to achieve that level of fulfillment and joy in their marriage, and outlining what that means for them. So how could people get in touch with you? Do you have anything going on right now? Do you have a program? Do you have a book? Do you have anything that we can share with people?
I have a program. It's called The Hero Husband Project. And you can find that on the website, theherohusbandproject.com. Will take you to my website. I actually do have a book. It's called The Hero Husband, and it's right now it's only an ebook, but it's available on Amazon.
Great.
And so because it really is important to understand that a marriage is both people, and it has to work for both people, or it's not going to work. And there's a lot of bad information out there, and so on the website I also offer the opportunity to take a 5-minute relationship quiz. Where are you? What does your relationship look like? Because one of the things people will say, especially men, it's not that bad. And by the way, if that sentence has ever come out of your mouth or even crossed your brain, it is that bad.
Yes.
Right? You're headed in the wrong direction. And,
not the kind of language you want coming out of your mouth or bouncing around in your head. So
right,
Leslie, we're going to make sure
what she wants.
We're going to get that in the chat. Those of you who are watching live, it'll be in the chat. We'll make sure that you get the links to Leslie's website. Her assessment is on there, also to her program. So just as a little housekeeping thing, once the recording, this live kind of goes not live, I guess. And by the way, everyone, if you have enjoyed this conversation, anybody that catches this or is with us now or catches it in the future, play in the sandbox with us. Leave comments. We'll be monitoring that. It's not, this is not old news. This is a conversation that we'd love to continue. So, and I know Leslie will be checking in. Jamie and I'll be checking in on this particular video when it's on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So participate, jump in there, and give us your thoughts on what we've talked about today on this idea of decision, the idea that clarity is a choice, not something you wait for, and all those relationships that it affects in life. So I'd also be remiss if I didn't point out the scrolling thing along the bottom there is that Jamie and I, around once a month or every so often, we do a workshop for coaches. It's free. It's all about making choices. It's all about what it takes to build a business. So Michael Gerber, I'm a big fan of. One of the things that comes from him, and I think this applies to marriage as well, is that it's not that people don't know enough about, in business, marketing, management, how to run a business, in marriage, how to run a business, how to build an effective relationship. It's that they think they know enough. So they spend all of their time defending and justifying what little they know instead of seeking new knowledge. And I think that really is a great summation and a capture of the concepts that we've talked about, how important it is to step out of that thinking that you know enough and become that perpetual student. Reach out, get that assistance, get that help to really make your life the most that it can become. Jamie, any other closing thoughts from you? Or
no, we'll get all these posted, and we'll put Leslie's LinkedIn profile link as well. So feel free to reach out to her. And Leslie, it's been an absolute pleasure reconnecting and having you here with us. And what a great topic. I love how we kind of morphed it through so that we can also reflect on Leslie's expertise as well. So beautiful.
Yes.
On how it all relates. Business relationships they're all the same, and we all need
nothing's disconnected.
In what yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So with that,
it's the rules of life.
The rules of life.
Yes.
There we go.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Nothing by accident. We have to be intentional. So
yes.
Beautiful. All right, everybody. Thank you. We'll see you next week. And I'm going to end the stream right here.